Hello and welcome back to the United Journal podcast. I'm Joan today. I'm joined by ESPN's Man United correspondent Rob Dawson. How are you, Rob?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. And we'll not waste any time and get straight into it. The name on everybody's lips, Jadon Sancho, at the minute, seems to roll off the tongue for United fans. The deal came so close to being completed last summer, and it looks like we'll experience a similar saga this time around. With Dortmund's asking fee reportedly being lower than the 120 million euros that was demanded last summer, in your opinion, do you think this is a deal that's attainable for United this summer?
Yeah, I certainly think it's attainable. You're right in what you say that the fee was the major sticking point last summer. Not just the fee, that also the uncertainty around United's finances as well, with the pandemic and the club not really knowing when that was going to end and how they were going to come out of that. Obviously, things look a little bit clearer now in terms of having fans back. I think the finances are a little bit more stable. Maybe is the word. They know a little bit more about how it's going to look going forward, and obviously Jadon Sancho is a year further on in his contract, so obviously the price comes down a little bit with regard to that. So yeah, in terms of whether it's attainable or not, certainly, obviously these things, like you say, they can drag on, and it's not done until it's done. But yeah, I think there's a fair chance that one may happen.
Yeah, and it would seem like a huge failure if United failed to land Sancho this summer after everything that's happened. It would seem like a bit of a nightmare scenario. Do you think there's any alternative targets the club might look towards, such as I know Ismaila Sarr was mentioned last year? Is there anyone else you know of?
I mean, there would certainly be players on the list below Jadon Sancho. It's the way that Man United work is that they'll identify a position that they feel needs strengthened, come up with a list, quite a long list of candidates that'll get whittled down gradually over the months between sort of January and the opening of the summer transfer window. They'll land on around three. It is the usual process, just in case, because obviously these things are very volatile, and again, it's never done until it's actually done. So I think Jadon Sancho, I think most people know that he's a player that United have followed for a long time, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer likes a lot. But there will be other targets underneath him if that doesn't come off. Who those are, I'm not sure, but I'm sure that they're fairly hopeful of landing Jadon Sancho. And again, if it doesn't come off, that there will be other players in and around the list that they can move on to if needs be.
Yeah, and just moving along sort of that forward line there, in your eyes, would it appear that Cavani signing the 1 year extension, would that have put a halt to United's immediate search for a striker? Because we know it probably would have been one of the priority signings to look out for this summer, like, Haaland and Kane. But does Cavani sign a new contract sort of, give United a year to think about that and just go with Cavani?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly changes things. I mean, Solskjaer has talked a lot about what Cavani brings to the team, having a proper number nine, as opposed to someone like Anthony Martial who plays in a different way. I think if Ederson had decided to leave, it would have changed things. It's obviously great news that he's going to stay for a year, and I think it does give United a bit of breathing space for in terms of signing a number nine, a long-term number nine. I wouldn't say that it's completely paused their pursuit of a number nine, because United need to be looking at the best players, and when you've got players like Erling Haaland or Harry Kane who become available, United really need to be in the mix for those players. Now, I'm pretty sure that if it looks like either one of those are on the move this summer, Edinson Cavani signing a new contract wouldn't stop United looking at that and seeing if there was something they could do. I think that the hope is, like you said, that that they would delay that possibly for a year. Sign Jadon Sancho for that right wing slot that's been a little bit problematic, and then in a year's time maybe look at signing a number nine when you expect Ederson then might leave and go back to South America, probably to Boca Juniors. It's interesting that the Erling Haaland situation, because obviously everyone knows that United have been interested in him. They were before he went to Borussia Dortmund and still are now. There was talk that he may leave in the summer, and that looked more likely when it looked like Borussia Dortmund were going to miss out on the Champions League. I think that has changed now, and it's more likely that Erling Haaland leaves Borussia Dortmund next summer rather than this summer, which again would fit into United's process moving forward. If United get another good year out of Edison Cavani, they may be in a far better position to land Erling Haaland next summer than they are this summer.
Yeah, exactly. And in regards to centre backs, it seems like United are a bit short-handed in that position, especially seeing after how the defence coped after Maguire, his absence, and we saw the defence sort of fall apart in the 4-2 loss to Liverpool. Do you think the centre back position is a priority for the club this summer? And there's targets, names being mentioned like Varane, Koundé, Pau Torres.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that has been looked at for a while. Going back more than a year. I think it was looked at seriously when they weren't really sure what Eric Bailly was going to do. Obviously, he signed a new long-term contract. You've got Harry Maguire on a long contract and Victor Lindelof on a long contract, so I can't see any of those three leaving particularly. The one that may affect things is Axel Tuanzebe, because obviously I think you need 4 top-level centre-backs. Axel is a fantastic player, but has struggled with his fitness and probably needs games. I wouldn't be surprised if he was sent out on loan, or at least offered on loan for next season, because he needs a regular season playing football if he's going to develop in the way the club want. If he was to leave, then that does open up a slot. And you're right, the names you've mentioned are all names that United have looked at. Varane has been someone that the club have wanted for years. I mean, he was mentioned, wasn't he, before Phil Jones signed, and that tells you how long they've been looking at him, and he's only got better and better at Real Madrid. Obviously, there's a situation there with his contract at Real Madrid that United may be able to take advantage of. Pau Torres is another one, again, was looked at last summer. City looked at him as well and went with Ruben Diaz instead. I think Solskjaer would quite like a left-footed centre-back if possible, just to give the back four a little bit more balance. But again, it can be tricky because there aren't many high-quality left-footed centre-halves available. So it wouldn't surprise me if there was a centre-back came in. The problem that United have got is that they haven't got 250 million to spend on as many players as they want. The spending will have to be quite cautious. And if you sign Jadon Sancho and possibly another midfielder, does it leave a massive amount of money for a centre-half? Possibly not. What Solskjaer will have to do is prioritise and decide where he needs reinforcements now and where he can wait for a year. Because as I say, I don't think, obviously the pandemic has hit the finances quite hard, and United aren't really in a position just to go and blow a huge amount of money. I expect the net spend will be around between 100 and 150 million, as we've seen the last couple of summers. So working towards that pattern, it's highly unlikely, I think, that they're going to sign 100 million pound players up front in midfield and in defence. It's going to take a little bit of creativity, possibly, and Solskjaer to prioritise, decide where he needs those players right now.
Yeah, and you said there about Solskjaer prioritising where you think he needs to improve, and that also ties into where Jesse Lingard, he's revived his career at West Ham. He's won the Player of the Month recently, and that could tie into United's interest in Declan Rice, which has been widely reported. We rarely see swap deals in football nowadays, only really see them on occasion. But do you think there's a scenario in which Lingard can be used to lure Rice to Old Trafford?
Possibly not, only because I don't think that it's something that Jesse Lingard would want to do. United are interested in Declan Rice, as are a lot of top Premier League clubs. I think that he would be open to moving to United. It's whether United can agree a fee with West Ham for someone who is their star man. I think for Jesse, he is quite keen to play Champions League football. He's quite keen to join a club who are in the Champions League, and West Ham look like they're slipping out of that race a little bit. But Lingard's certainly given United a decision to make, because I think he obviously wasn't playing at United. I think that United thought he would go to West Ham and do okay. I think he's taken a lot of people by surprise by how well he's done. And it may be that United are feeling now that they want to offer him a new contract. The decision ultimately will be Jesse Lingard's, because he went to West Ham. He forced that move through. He could have stayed at Old Trafford, and he forced that move through because he wanted to play regular games, and he's done that and shown how good a player he is. The issue for Jesse would be whether he would come back to United and play enough games for him to get into the England squad again. And the last thing that he wants is to go back to Old Trafford and find himself in the same position not really playing games behind Bruno Fernandes in the pecking order, and scrapping for a place on the bench. So I think Jesse has done so well that he's going to have an awful lot of offers in the summer. One possibly from Man United, but from other clubs as well, Champions League clubs who want to sign him. So I don't see him going to West Ham as part of a move for Declan Rice. Could he leave? Yes. Could he come back? I think that's probably where United are at right now. But again, it will be his decision about whether he comes back, because he doesn't want to. He's at an age in his career where he doesn't want to sit on the bench. He wants to play, and he's shown at West Ham how valuable he is when he does play.
Yeah, exactly. And do you think if Lingard does depart and the deal with Rice doesn't happen, United may use those funds if they sell him to explore other options in like defensive midfield or where else?
Yeah, I mean that is a possibility. I mean, I talked about what United will look for as a net spend. I'd be pretty sure that any funds that were raised that would go, Solskjaer would be allowed to put that back into the team. And the names that the candidates for that are ones that fans will know. I mean, Jesse Lingard is one of them. Obviously, his fee has gone through the roof, really, given what he's done at West Ham, and compared to where it was probably in January. The other ones are the likes of Andreas Pereira, who's still under contract but has gone to Lazio, and Lazio are quite keen to sign him. Diogo Dalot is another one that could possibly leave. I think that is perhaps dependent on United bringing in cover at right back. Max Aarons at Norwich is one of the names that's been mentioned a lot, and United are very interested in him and looked at him in January. Obviously, that got knocked back because Norwich were desperate to get promoted to the Premier League, but that's happened now. And as far as we know, Max Aarons is someone who's quite ambitious and would like to move to a top Premier League club, and also would fit the bill with United being able to play on both sides and young English footballer who's going to get better and better. So there are candidates for departures at United. And I would expect that money gets put back in. It just depends how much money you can raise, because the likes of Diogo Dalot and Andreas Pereira, having spent a year on loan, United aren't going to get a huge amount of money for them. The one really is Jesse Lingard. You could, in theory, you could price him at anything from 30 million above, given what he's done at West Ham. It depends with what kind of market there is for him and what kind of clubs are in for him.
Exactly. And you mentioned there about the sort of issue with the right back depth. I mean, we've seen players like Brandon Williams shoved in there, Dalot likely to leave in the summer. Do you think would that be a priority position for United this summer, or targets like centre back and defensive midfield come ahead of that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's something that Solskjaer would be keen on, given what Alex Telles has done for Luke Shaw. I must admit, when they were looking to sign Alex Telles last summer, I didn't really see the sense in that, because I thought there were bigger holes to fill, and that you were signing a left back who was going to probably play second choice to Luke Shaw, which is how it's turned out. But what I didn't see, in fairness, was that how well Luke would play and how much that competition has helped him. So if United can do that on the right-hand side for someone like Aaron Wan-Bissaka, then it's worthwhile. And I think United may look at that and go, well, we can spend a lot of money on a forward. We can spend a lot of money on either a centre-half or a central midfielder. And then perhaps we've got a little bit left over to sign a right back. They always look to sign 3 players every summer, and maybe that's something that the creativity that I was talking about that they could do to kind of get 3 players in without having to spend 100 million on 3 different players. I mean, Brandon Williams, I think he was obviously very, very good last season, has probably stalled a little bit. I think it's fair to say this season he's not really played that much. Solskjaer has hinted in the past that he's needed to kind of work on his focus a little bit. And I think that someone like him would benefit from a year out on loan playing regular football, because it is important for all these players. Brandon Williams, Axel Tuanzebe are 2 who United have got very, very high hopes for, but they need to play regular football. It's no good for them to just come in and then disappear for weeks on end and then come back in. It doesn't. And for Brandon Williams in particular, the under-23s, he's too good for that now. It's not really doing anything for him, so he probably needs to go out on loan. And if Diogo Dalot was to go, Brandon Williams goes out on loan somewhere, then there is a gap there to sign a right back to give Aaron Wan-Bissaka competition, because he's played an awful lot of games, and I think that he would probably benefit from that competition in the way that Luke has with Alex Telles coming in.
Yeah, and I just want to talk about the goalkeeper situation, because It's certainly been a while since I think we've had two keepers fighting head on for the number one spot. I think the last time I can remember is probably between Lingard and De Gea. But in the event that De Gea does leave this summer, will the club look for a replacement like for Dean Henderson, like Tom Heaton or Sam Johnston?
Yeah, I mean, Tom Heaton and Sam Johnson are two players that they are interested in for that exact reason, because obviously they've had David and Dean sort of compete for the number one spot this season. It looks like Dean at the moment is first choice and David is second choice. And going forward, given the stage of David's career and the money he's on at Man United, for me, it doesn't really make much sense to carry on with that situation. I'm sure that David De Gea wants to go and play regular football. He's still good enough to play at the highest level. So, yeah, if one of those were to leave, you would need a second choice to come in. Tom Heaton is out of contract at Aston Villa. Obviously knows United very well. Would be an ideal choice. Sam Johnston as well, but has probably done so well at West Brom this year that he may look and want to be number one somewhere. There's talk of him possibly going to Tottenham if Hugo Lloris leaves. So I think he may have a few more options than perhaps Tom Heaton. And Tom Heaton is the kind of goalkeeper who you would expect wouldn't mind coming back to Man United to be second choice to a first choice and offer that competition and just play when he's needed, rather than someone like Sam Johnson who would want to play every week. I mean, in my opinion, I think it's important to have a settled number one goalkeeper. I can understand why Ole has wanted the both goalkeepers to compete and push each other on. But I think from a stability point of view, it's important to pick one and go with him next season as the out and out first choice. At the moment, that looks to be Dean Henderson. So, if David does decide to go, if he does want to leave and finds a move, then it makes sense to sign someone like Tom Heaton, I think.
Yeah, and in regards to Pogba, he's looked like one of the club's best players this season. Exactly the man they looked like they've paid 89 million for. Especially when United went top of the league in January, he was flying. Do you think he's likely to stay at the club? And if so, does that affect Van de Beek's role going forward?
Yeah, I mean, Paul Pogba is an interesting case because everyone will know that he will enter the final year of his contract over the summer. His agent has said repeatedly in the past that he won't sign a new one and wants to go. You're right. He's been fantastic since Christmas, really. You can tell what he brings to the team, and United have looked far better when he's been playing than when he hasn't. I think he enjoys that left-hand side role that he's been given by Solskjaer. I think he feels it suits his skill set perhaps a bit more than playing in the centre of midfield. So United have got a huge decision to make with him because, obviously the choices are you either, if he's not going to sign a new contract, either sell him in the summer or keep hold of him and risk losing him for free in a year's time. What I would say is that the clubs that Paul Pogba sees himself at haven't got, or United don't believe have got the money to sign him. They don't think they've got the money to put together a bid that would tempt United to sell. And on top of that, give Paul Pogba a pay packet that would convince him to move. So I think there is an opportunity for Paul to sign a new long-term contract. And even when Mino Raiola was saying that he wasn't ever going to sign a new one, United were always very relaxed about that and said that they'd never given up hope. They'd never written it off. And as far as I know, there are talks planned after the season to kind of resolve it. I think what United will be wary of is giving him a big new contract with a pay rise and then having the same circus start all over again with his agent sort of saying almost immediately a year down the line that he wants to leave. So United will be very keen to listen to what his intentions are and where he sees himself. And if those conversations go well, I don't see any reason why United wouldn't sign him and Paul wouldn't sign for the next 5 years. As I say, if that doesn't happen, United are faced with quite a tough choice then, because it'll be whether they take, I don't know, between 50 and 60 million, maybe not even that, this summer to get something for him, given the investment that they've made, or whether they hang on to him, let Paul run his contract down and risk losing him for free in 12 months, which at the moment is obviously an option.
Yeah, and obviously that midfield, it looks a bit flooded at times this season. There's a lot of players in there, but it doesn't look like some are good enough. James Garner's had a really good season at Forest. He's broken out really well. Is it possible he'll get loaned out to maybe a Premier League club to get some experience under his belt, like Ahmad, Shortera, some of those players?
Yeah, I mean, that you would think that's kind of the next step for him. He's obviously gone to Forest in the Championship and done really well. Maybe United look at another Championship loan to give him a full season somewhere, or look to loan him out to a Premier League club in the hope that he gets some Premier League experience. I think he'll be heavily involved in pre-season because of how well he's done. He's obviously a player that Solskjaer likes. He's played him before for the first team, so they'll be keen for hit to help him with the next stage of his development. Yeah, you're right. There are lots of players in that midfield, and it's difficult to see him playing regular football if he stays at Old Trafford. It makes sense that the next step for him would be to go out on loan somewhere. I think you're the same with Shortera probably, or Amad Diallo. I mean, Diallo is someone who will obviously be affected if they sign another forward, if it's Jadon Sancho or someone else. So I think if someone else were to come in, that United would look to loan him out to give him a full season somewhere, because you forget that he barely played any first team football at all. He wasn't playing regularly at Atalanta. He's come into Man United and done well in glimpses, but hasn't really had a run in a team. So he needs regular football. Shortera is a different case a little bit because he's a little bit younger and has still got a few years maybe to play in the 23s, maybe just a little bit behind Amad Diallo in his development and James Garner in his development. So it's possible that he stays and just plays a bit part role, and then maybe in a year's time they look to loan him out. But obviously, three very exciting players, and it's important that United get their development right.
Of course, yeah. And in regards to sort of development and the appointments that were made, Richard Murto and Woodward's resignation is probably one of the biggest things that's happened to this football club in a long time. And regarding that, do you think it's likely to be another internal appointment, such as Richard Arnold?
I would think so. That's the way that United have done things in the past. You saw when David Gill left, it was Ed Woodward who was appointed. Obviously, already knew the club very well. Richard Arnold has worked very closely with Ed Woodward since he took over. It would be the logical appointment to make. He's someone that's well known to the football side of the business, the manager and his assistants, and also the Glazers. So it would make sense for them to make that appointment. He's obviously well versed in how United are run and what they're looking to do, the commercial operation, as well as how they buy and sell, and negotiations that go into strengthening the squad. So I can understand that lots of the fans want an outside appointment just to freshen things up, if nothing else. And they may feel that appointing Richard Arnold is more of the same. But I think it's important that they have some kind of continuity in terms of leadership at United. It's obviously a very difficult time for the club as a whole, with what's going on and off the pitch in particular. So I think it's the most likely scenario is that Richard Arnold gets that job. I'm sure that outside candidates will be looked at, because United have to do their due diligence with things like this. But it wouldn't be a surprise to me if it was Richard Arnold who got it eventually.
Yeah, and just to sort of cap things off, it's been a really successful season for Solskjaer to date. Most of the fan base are really delighted with the improvements made. We had reports of a new contract that were sort of floating around a couple of months ago. Do you think at the end of the season that's all but nailed on for him?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think he's done everything that the club have asked him to do. He's shown progress on the field. He's changed the culture of the club and the squad. I think he's taken the club forward from where he found it under Jose Mourinho, both on and off the field. Lots of his signings have worked out. He's put together quite a young group of core players who should be there for the foreseeable future. Obviously, the next step beyond where we are is the hardest. If he finishes the season with a trophy, that's great. And if he finishes second, again, that's great after finishing third last season. But really, he needs to be winning the Champions League and the Premier League, or at least maintaining a serious title challenge until the last weeks of the season. So I think the club are happy with where he is right now. Obviously, he's got a year left in his contract, so it makes sense at the moment to start looking at that and start talking to him and offer him a new contract and probably getting that boxed off this summer at some stage. And then it'll be down to Solskjaer. He'll get money to spend again. They'll expect it to make another step forward next season. And, there aren't that many places to go once you finish second in the league. The aim will be to win it or at least challenge very late into the season. So, I think he's done a great job, really, given the things he's had to deal with. Hopefully now he can make the next step and you can have United winning titles again.
Well, that's the end goal, and hopefully we do see that soon. But a big thank you, Rob, for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. You can find mine and Rob's Twitter links both in the description. Thanks all for listening. Make sure to like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. Check these videos out too and make sure to drop a like and a comment. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more Man United exclusive videos. Tap on the bell icon so that you don't miss any videos. See you soon.